The Silent Watchers. The galactic archive floated in the void between star systems, a structure so ancient that most species had forgotten who built it. Kelvin pressed his sensory appendages against the data terminal, his bioluminescent skin flickering with concentration. As a junior archivist for the Collective Knowledge Foundation, he spent his days cataloging old expedition reports, most of them routine surveys of lifeless worlds or simple bacterial discoveries. Today was different. The file had appeared during a routine data migration, buried under layers of encryption so old that modern systems had accidentally unlocked it. The designation read, Sol System, Permanent Observation Status Restricted Access Level Omega. Kelvin had never seen an Omega restriction before. Even wars and planet-killing weapons were only classified as level Alpha. His curiosity overwhelmed his caution. He opened the file. The first document was dated 847 million cycles ago, written in ancient Etherian, the language of the oldest ones. Kelvin's translator struggled with the archaic dialect, but the meaning slowly became clear. It was an expedition report from a survey mission to a yellow dwarf star system, third planet from the Sun. The planet was designated as a Class 7 biosphere with extreme evolutionary pressure. Kelvin read through the report, his skin darkening with confusion. The expedition had lasted only 3 planetary rotations before retreating. The reason given was simply, unsuitable for contact. Recommend permanent monitoring from distance. All life forms display unprecedented adaptive aggression. That seemed excessive for a planet that, according to the data, had only developed multicellular life. Kelvin dug deeper into the archive, finding report after report spanning hundreds of millions of years. Each expedition told the same story. Approach Earth, observe the life forms, retreat in alarm. One report from 380 million cycles ago described creatures that had recently emerged from the oceans onto land. The expedition leader, a scientist named Therox of the Etherian Consensus, had written, "These creatures possess no advanced technology, yet they display problem-solving abilities that should not exist at this evolutionary stage. We observed a predator species adapting its hunting strategy 3 times in a single day to counter its prey's defensive behaviors. This world does not produce specialists. It produces generalists that can become anything they need to be." Another report from 230 million cycles ago focused on massive reptilian creatures that dominated the planet. The expedition had attempted to collect samples but had been forced to withdraw when a pack of smaller predators demonstrated coordinated tactical thinking. They communicated through vocalizations and body language, the report stated. They set an ambush for our collection drone, using the terrain to their advantage. These creatures have brain masses that should not support such sophisticated behavior. Something about this planet accelerates cognitive development beyond normal evolutionary parameters. Kelvin felt his respiratory system quicken. He was reading about a world that had terrified the most advanced species in the galaxy for nearly 1 billion years. But why? The Etherians had visited thousands of death worlds, places with hostile atmospheres, aggressive megafauna, and extreme conditions. What made this one planet so special? He found his answer in a report dated 65 million cycles ago, right after a massive extinction event had wiped out the dominant reptilian species. The new expedition leader, an Etherian named Sulvex, had written something that made Kelvin's skin flash bright orange with alarm. The extinction event provides an opportunity to study this world's recovery process. Initial observations suggest that the surviving species are already adapting to fill empty ecological niches. Of particular concern, we have identified at least 15 distinct evolutionary lines that show early signs of intelligence development. Not sentience yet, but the foundation for it. Mammalian species demonstrate tool use and social cooperation. Avian species display memory and problem-solving skills. Marine species exhibit communication complexity and cultural learning. This planet is not producing one intelligent species. It is producing many simultaneously. Recommend continued quarantine. If even one of these lines reaches technological sophistication, they will be dangerous. If multiple lines reach it together, the implications are beyond our current understanding. Kelvin sat back from the terminal, his mind racing. Earth was not quarantined because it was dangerous. It was quarantined because it was doing something impossible. Most planets in the galaxy produced intelligent life once every few billion years, if at all. Earth was apparently on track to produce dozens of intelligent species at the same time. He continued reading through the reports, watching the pattern emerge. Every few million years, another expedition would visit Earth, observe the life forms, and retreat with increasing levels of concern. The mammals evolved. The birds evolved. The marine creatures evolved. And all of them showed signs of intelligence. Then, 100,000 cycles ago, something changed. A new species appeared in the reports: humans. The expedition that discovered them had observed from orbit for an entire planetary year before filing their report. Kelvin read it with growing fascination. The bipedal primates designated humans have emerged as the dominant land species. They possess no natural weapons, minimal physical strength compared to other predators, and lack environmental adaptations for most of the planet's climates. By all logical assessments, they should be prey animals. Instead, they are the apex predator across all terrestrial environments. They have achieved this through unprecedented cognitive ability and tool use. More concerning, they have domesticated other predator species, bringing wolves into their social groups and using them as hunting partners. They communicate across species barriers through learned behavior patterns. This represents the first confirmed case of voluntary interspecies cooperation between apex predators that we have ever observed. Recommend continued quarantine with elevated monitoring status. The reports became more frequent after that. Every 1,000 cycles, sometimes every few hundred, another expedition would check on humanity's progress. The Etherians watched humans develop agriculture, build cities, create art and mathematics and philosophy. They watched humans spread across every continent, adapting to every environment from frozen tundras to burning deserts. And they watched the other species too. The reports documented dolphins developing complex language systems, elephants demonstrating self-awareness and mourning rituals, corvids using tools and teaching their offspring, great apes learning sign language from humans, octopi solving puzzles and displaying individual personalities. One report from just 50 cycles ago had been written by an Etherian observer named Valrith, who seemed deeply troubled by what he had witnessed. I have spent my entire career studying intelligent species across the galaxy. I have never seen anything like Earth. The humans have now achieved nuclear technology, computer systems, and space travel. But that is not what concerns me most. What concerns me is that they are not alone. I observed a research facility where humans work with dolphins, treating them as colleagues rather than subjects. I watched a program where humans teach great apes to communicate through symbolic language. I found evidence of humans studying and preserving the intelligence of multiple other species on their world, not to exploit them but to understand them and help them develop further. The humans are not trying to be the only intelligent species on their planet. They are actively fostering the development of others. This cooperative instinct should not exist in an apex predator. It contradicts everything we understand about evolutionary competition. I recommend we prepare for the possibility that Earth will not send one species to the stars. It will send many and they will come as allies. Kelvin's skin had gone completely pale. He accessed the final document in the archive, dated just 3 planetary rotations ago. It was an automated alert from one of the monitoring stations in Earth's solar system. Alert: faster-than-light signature detected from Sol 3. Human vessel has achieved FTL capability. Initial destination appears to be galactic core region. Travel time to nearest collective space: 47 cycles. Primary quarantine breach imminent. Activate emergency protocol Omega 7. Notify Etherian High Command. All contingency plans for Cradle World contact are now in effect. Kelvin felt fear for the first time in his life. The humans were coming, and based on these reports they would not be coming alone. He immediately initiated a priority communication to his supervisor, but before it could connect, alarms began blaring throughout the archive. Emergency council session called, a synthetic voice announced through the station's systems. All personnel report to observation decks. Unknown vessels approaching from Sol System Vector. Kelvin rushed to the nearest observation deck, joining dozens of other archivists and researchers. Through the massive transparent viewport he could see them, 3 ships emerging from FTL space. The lead vessel was clearly human in design, sleek and functional with obvious weapon systems and defensive shields. But the other 2 ships were unlike anything Kelvin had ever seen. One appeared to have massive water-filled sections visible through transparent panels. The other had unusual modular sections that seemed designed for multiple different environmental conditions. These were not exploration vessels or cargo ships. These were ships built to carry multiple different types of life, species with different needs and requirements. An Etherian counselor materialized on the observation deck, her ancient form shimmering with distress. "It has happened," she said, her voice carrying the weight of nearly 1 billion years of waiting. "The humans have achieved FTL capability, and they have brought others with them. Prepare the council chamber. We must meet them and finally answer the question we have been asking for 847 million cycles. What do we do when a death world learns to cooperate instead of compete?" Kelvin watched the human ships draw closer, and despite his fear, he felt something else stirring inside him. Curiosity. These humans and their companions had evolved on a world that produced nothing but apex predators, where life was a constant struggle for survival and dominance. Yet somehow, impossibly, they had learned to work together. Perhaps Earth's greatest threat to the galaxy was not violence or aggression. Perhaps it was the revolutionary idea that different forms of intelligence did not have to compete. They could cooperate. They could become something greater together than any of them could be alone. The Etherian counselor turned to address everyone on the observation deck. "For nearly 1 billion years we have watched and waited. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have witnessed countless species reach for the stars. But Earth is different. Earth is the question we have never been able to answer. Today we will finally learn what it means when a death world stops fighting itself and turns its attention outward. May the ancient currents preserve us all." The human ships continued their approach, and Kelvin knew that the galaxy would never be the same again. Earth was here and it had brought friends. The truth of the death world. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, watching the massive structure of the Galactic Archive grow larger on the viewscreen. Behind her ship, the ESS Aquarius and ESS Unity maintained formation, their specialized designs making them stand out against the darkness of space. Sarah took a deep breath, knowing that everything humanity had worked toward for the past century was about to be tested. "Captain, we're receiving multiple hails from the station," Lieutenant James Park reported from the communications console. "They're requesting we hold position and wait for a diplomatic escort. The language is polite, but the subtext is clear. They're nervous." Sarah smiled slightly. "Can't blame them. We did show up with 3 ships instead of 1. Send confirmation that we'll comply with their requests. Let's not start this off by being aggressive." Commander David Torres, her first officer, leaned closer. "The sensors are picking up massive energy readings from that station. Whatever it is, it's old. Really old. And it's armed." "Noted," Sarah replied calmly. "But we're not here to fight. We're here to talk. And to show them who we really are." A voice came through the ship's internal communication system, the translation device converting clicks and whistles into clear English. "Sarah, this is Ambassador Kai from the Aquarius. We're ready whenever you are. My team is excited but understandably anxious." Sarah activated her response. "Acknowledged, Kai. We'll follow the escort procedures and dock as directed. Make sure everyone stays calm. This is a historic moment." From the Unity, another voice joined the conversation, this time synthesized from neural pattern readings and translated into speech. "Dr. Iris reporting from Unity. All environmental systems stable. The delegation is prepared for extended interaction outside our normal habitat." Sarah felt a surge of pride. 3 ships. 3 different types of Earth intelligence, all working together for the same goal. Humanity was not coming to the galaxy alone. An hour later, the Galactic Council chamber was unlike anything Sarah had ever imagined. The room was circular and vast, with seating arranged in ascending tiers that could accommodate thousands. And it was full. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the chamber, their forms ranging from gaseous clouds contained in specialized suits to massive crystalline beings that barely fit through the doorways. The noise was overwhelming until Sarah and her delegation entered. Then silence fell like a curtain dropping. Sarah walked to the central platform, her boots clicking against the smooth floor. Beside her moved Ambassador Kai, a bottlenose dolphin in an advanced mobility apparatus that allowed him to float through the air, his sleek body suspended in a water-filled transparent enclosure that moved with him. On her other side, Dr. Iris, a giant Pacific octopus, navigated in a specialized tank mounted on a hovering platform, her 8 arms moving in patterns that Sarah had learned to recognize as contemplation. Behind them walked Dr. Marcus Chin, humanity's leading xenobiologist, accompanied by 2 more members of Earth's delegation, a border collie named Atlas who served as an emotional intelligence specialist, and a raven called Newton who had demonstrated counting abilities and problem-solving skills that rivaled some primates. The silence stretched. Sarah could feel the weight of countless eyes, sensors, and perception organs focused on them. Finally, a voice spoke, seeming to come from everywhere at once. "I am Counselor Ethera of the Etherian Consensus. We have monitored your world for 847 million of your years. We have watched your evolution, your struggles, your triumphs and failures. And we have kept you quarantined from galactic society because we feared what you represent." Sarah kept her voice steady. "We know about the quarantine. We've detected your monitoring stations. We've known for 50 years that we were being watched. The question is, why? What made you so afraid of Earth?" The massive form of the Etherian counselor shimmered, and suddenly the chamber's central space filled with holographic images. Sarah saw Earth as it appeared millions of years ago, teeming with strange creatures she recognized from prehistoric records. "Your world is what we call a crucible planet," Ethera explained. "Only 7 have been discovered in our galaxy's history. These are worlds where evolution does not simply progress, it accelerates. Where competition is so intense that life must constantly adapt or perish. Where intelligence emerges not once, but repeatedly in multiple forms simultaneously." The images changed, showing ancient expedition footage. Sarah watched as alien explorers encountered Earth's dinosaurs, its early mammals, its marine life. In every case, the pattern was the same. The aliens observed, grew alarmed at the intelligence and adaptability they witnessed, and retreated. "We have seen countless species reach for the stars," Ethera continued. "Each one was unique, but they all followed the same basic pattern. One species becomes dominant, develops technology, and eventually achieves space travel. But Earth breaks this pattern. You do not have one intelligent species. You have dozens, all developing simultaneously, all showing different forms of cognitive ability." Ambassador Kai's translator activated, his clicks and whistles becoming words. "You fear us because we're not alone. Because humanity isn't the only intelligent life on Earth." "Yes," Ethera replied simply. "And more than that, we fear you because you cooperate. In all our observations of life across the galaxy, we have never seen apex predators from different species work together willingly. Competition drives evolution. Survival of the fittest requires that the strong dominate the weak. Yet on Earth, this fundamental law seems to be ignored." Dr. Iris's neural interface created text that appeared in the air. "You assume competition is the only path. Earth taught us differently. Competition creates strength, but cooperation creates something greater than strength. It creates synergy." The chamber erupted in sounds, clicks, whistles, electronic tones, and vocalizations that Sarah's translator couldn't identify. She could sense the disbelief, the fear, the confusion radiating from the assembled aliens. Another counselor spoke, this one a crystalline being that refracted light in patterns that Sarah's visual cortex struggled to process. "You claim cooperation, but your own history contradicts this. Humanity has warred with itself for millennia. You have destroyed entire ecosystems. You have driven countless species to extinction. How can you stand there and speak of cooperation?" Sarah felt the sting of truth in those words, but she didn't look away. "You're right. Humanity's history is filled with violence and destruction. We've made terrible mistakes. But that's exactly why we learned the value of cooperation. Our wars taught us the cost of conflict. Our environmental destruction taught us the importance of preserving other forms of life. We learned because we had to. Because Earth gave us no choice but to evolve or destroy ourselves completely. Dr. Chin stepped forward. 20 years ago we nearly did destroy ourselves. Climate change, resource depletion, the threat of nuclear war. We stood on the edge of extinction. But instead of falling over that edge we stepped back. We made a choice. We decided that survival meant more than just human survival. It meant preserving and protecting all the intelligence on our planet. The holographic display changed again, now showing footage from Earth. Sarah watched images of the International Cetacean Communication Project, where humans and dolphins worked side by side to map ocean currents and protect marine ecosystems. She saw the Great Ape Cognitive Research Centers, where humans treated gorillas, chimpanzees, and orangutans as research partners rather than subjects. She saw octopus colonies being protected and studied, their problem-solving abilities being celebrated rather than exploited. We didn't come to the galaxy as conquerors, Sarah said firmly. We came as representatives of Earth's intelligence, all of it. Not just human intelligence but the collective cognitive diversity of our entire planet. Atlas, the border collie, moved forward and sat beside Sarah, his intelligent brown eyes scanning the assembled aliens. Newton, the raven, flew from Dr. Chen's shoulder to perch on the edge of Sarah's platform, his head tilting as he observed the council with obvious curiosity. Ambassador Kai spoke again. We dolphins have lived alongside humans for millennia. Our relationship began with mutual curiosity, grew into cooperation, and became partnership. Humans learned our language. We learned to understand their technology. Together, we achieved things neither species could have accomplished alone. Dr. Iris's display activated. Octopi are solitary by nature. We do not form social bonds easily. But humans showed us that intelligence comes in many forms. They built interfaces that translate our color-based thinking into human language. They gave us tools designed for tentacles instead of fingers. They treated our distributed neural network not as inferior to their centralized brain, but as different and equally valid. Another counselor, this one resembling a floating jellyfish with bioluminescent patterns, spoke up. This is admirable, but it proves our point. Earth produces too many intelligent species. If all of you achieve technological advancement, if you all begin to spread across the galaxy, the competition for resources will be catastrophic. History shows that when two intelligent species share the same space, one always dominates or destroys the other. Sarah shook her head. That's where you're wrong. That's the old way of thinking, the way that Earth spent millions of years following. But we evolved past it. Yes, competition drove our development. Yes, Earth is a death world where only the strongest and most adaptable survive. But the final stage of that evolution, the ultimate adaptation, was learning to cooperate. She gestured to her companions. Humans excel at tool creation and abstract reasoning. Dolphins excel at spatial navigation and pattern recognition. Octopi excel at distributed problem-solving and adaptive thinking. Corvids like Newton excel at memory and cause-effect reasoning. Dogs like Atlas excel at emotional intelligence and social cohesion. Separately, each of us is impressive. Together, we're unstoppable. The chamber fell silent again. Sarah could see the counselors conferring with each other through various means of communication. Finally, Ethra spoke once more. You present us with a paradox. Everything in our understanding of evolution and survival suggests that your cooperation should be impossible. Apex predators do not share territory. Intelligent species do not willingly limit their own expansion to benefit competitors. Yet you stand before us as proof that our understanding is incomplete. Or, Dr. Chin interjected, perhaps your understanding is based on species that never faced the kind of pressure Earth created. Maybe cooperation only emerges when the alternative is mutual extinction. Earth didn't give us the luxury of dominating each other. It forced us to either work together or die together. Another wave of discussion rippled through the council. Sarah waited, her heart pounding. Everything depended on this moment. If the galaxy rejected Earth's approach, if they maintained the quarantine, humanity and its partners would be isolated, cut off from the wider universe. Ethra's form brightened. The Council requires time to deliberate. This revelation challenges billions of years of accepted wisdom. We cannot make a decision lightly. However, I will say this. In all the time we have observed Earth, we have never seen your species present a unified front. The fact that you stand here together, multiple forms of intelligence speaking with one voice, is perhaps the most compelling argument you could make. Sarah felt hope surge in her chest. We understand. Take the time you need. We're not going anywhere. Earth has waited this long to join the galactic community. We can wait a bit longer. As the council session concluded and the Earth delegation was escorted to diplomatic quarters, Ambassador Kai swam alongside Sarah in his mobility apparatus. Do you think they'll accept us? Sarah watched the various alien species moving through the station's corridors, many of them still staring at the Earth delegation with mixture of fear and fascination. I don't know. But we showed them the truth. We showed them that Earth's real power isn't our weapons or our technology or our individual species' abilities. It's our willingness to see intelligence in all its forms and choose cooperation over domination. Dr. Iris's display lit up with a new message. The galaxy will adapt or it won't. But Earth has already proven that adaptation is what we do best. Newton cawed from his perch on Dr. Chen's shoulder, and somehow Sarah knew the Raven understood more than any of them realized. Earth had come to the stars not as a single species, but as a coalition. The galaxy had never seen anything like it before. Perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed. 3 days later, the Council's decision came. The quarantine would be lifted conditionally. Earth's delegation would be allowed to establish an embassy, share technology and knowledge, and participate in galactic society. But they would be watched carefully, studied, and evaluated continuously. Sarah stood on the bridge of the horizon watching the message display and smiled. It wasn't complete acceptance, but it was a beginning. Earth had proven that cooperation between different forms of intelligence was possible. Now they would prove it was sustainable. Prepare a message for Earth, she ordered. Tell them the galaxy has opened its doors. And tell them to send more delegates. We're going to need dolphins, octopi, apes, corvids, and every other intelligent species on our planet. It's time to show the galaxy what real diversity looks like. As the message transmitted across the light years toward home, Sarah looked at her companions. Kai floating beside her, Iris observing through her tank, Atlas sitting calmly nearby, Newton preening his feathers. Each one represented a different path intelligence had taken on Earth. Each one proved that there was more than one way to think, to problem solve, to understand the universe. Earth's death world evolution had created not just survivors but collaborators. And that, Sarah thought, might be the most powerful force the galaxy had ever encountered.